The Indianapolis 500 is more than just a race. It's a legend, a cultural icon. For those that compete, a hunger.
This is, and always will be, the greatest spectacle in racing.
I started drinking at 6 a.m. We're here now. I don't know what time it is, but I'm rolling deep, and those cars are going real fast, real fast.
It's 500 for everybody to see. Ready right here.
Everyone to the Indianapolis 500 podcast of Borg Warner Production. My name is Bear-Lents, and you could actually listen to our podcast weekly online on the LagotiTimes.com or visit us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, and you can listen to us there, as we're going to be covering the Indianapolis 500-mile race, and this is technically the last technical weekend for a rest and celebration before pole day, bump day, and carb day begin, and then the whole show begins on May 24th as the Indianapolis 500 takes hold at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And let's just say today was the first day of the Sonsio Grand Prix, and it's the only day we can really celebrate it, as it was both a qualifying day and a day where Christian Lundgaard won the race. And he broke a very long drought that was actually held by Penske and Chip Ganassi, as for the first time, an Arrow McLaren Chevrolet is going to take the trophy at the Sonsio Grand Prix today. And it was at first I will say, it was a very, very clustered race. Let's just say that. It was very clustered down to the point where there were three cautions in the first 27 laps. That had not been done in 3 years. And it was really just scrambled. Everybody was still trying to figure each other out. The race course, there were times they were calling uncautionary cautions that should not have been called cautions, and that should have been called cautions, especially at the very beginning, especially when Alexander Rossi's gas had ran out, especially with the first half of the race. But really, other than that, they called cautions when they shouldn't have called cautions. And there were points in this race where the whole track just seemed to be all scrambled, and everybody was trying to get their feet wet more with how both the road course worked, which they should have had more time on the day before because of the whole situation going on with the qualifying and the inclement weather. And the crazy thing about this is they ran in the rain 2 years ago or so, and it was just, why did you need to cancel that? I don't understand that. And several years ago they ran in the rain, and all the other times they ran in the rain, so I don't get how they couldn't run qualifying in the middle of a rainstorm. It just made no sense. And the weather, especially if you consider how the weather was Friday night in Indianapolis, it really was just a golly washer than anything else, and they should have just allowed the drivers to not only race, but qualify, and they shouldn't have had to do it this morning, where tire traction and the track is cold, and the cars are cold, and everything's more grippy and more on the line. It was just very clustered, and that's maybe the first thing that I would say is, without a lack of qualifying, you saw a major amount of inexperience in drivers that had a lot of experience, drivers that had more experience than I could even understand. And so it was very, very common for this race to get on a rocky start, as we saw last year in the Indy 500. The road course was better in some ways than the actual Indy 500 itself, but the race was good and all. It wasn't that it was all bad, it's that it was really good. And other than that, really just more today, everybody was getting their feet wet and learning about each other. And it really was just a fight at the end between two different drivers, David Malukas and Christian Lundgaard. And I will say, for the two of them, they fought neck and neck, especially the moment when Lundgaard was passing for the lead coming out of the pit stop, which you have to remember, it's kind of backwards. They're just basically running the entire half of the race from turn 4 to turn 3, and then they're turning on the road course area in turn 3, and then it's just basically turn 3, and then turn 1, and then as soon as they come out of the chicane, it's turn 1 going into turn 4. And it used to be a lot more riskier. Like I was telling my sister, my little sister who's 17 and has autism, I was telling her that basically you're running the opposite of the race. You're just running it backwards. The oval, you're running straight throughout the yard of bricks. This time you're going behind the yard of bricks around turn 4 and turn 1. And so turn 1 and turn 4 ultimately become turn 3 and turn 4. So it pretty much is just, it really was a scrambled race all the way around. But I did a lot of explaining to my family about that. And I thought that was pretty cool to see my sister learn more about this race. And of course, it was Kristen Lugard's second career victory by 4.6713 seconds over David Malakis, who rode the number 12 Verizon Team Penske Chevrolet. It is basically Lugard's first career win since the Honda Indy Toronto race on July 16th of 2023. So it's been 3 straight years that he has not won a race for Rahal Letterman Racing. And so this ended a 47 race winless drought for this Danish driver. And he did incredible, especially when he got out of the pit stops. There was, I think, with 16 laps to go, him and Malakis were both scrambling for the lead. And I will say it was just neck and neck. They were just tied up against each other, neck and neck. It was insane. And the drivers were just basically all ready to not just give up, but they were ready to fight. They were ready to go at it. And a lot of drivers really fought for track position all day today, including, of course, Graham Rahal, who actually finished the podium today in third. He ran a great race. I thought he impressed me a lot today. Him and Malakis and Lundgaard, but really the one that really impressed me was Graham Rahal because he had more control and more grip on his car. And it was very positive seeing that from somebody who not only struggled out the gate last year and even 2 years ago when he was racing in Bump Day, he didn't even make it to this point. So it was very cool to see that, and not only very cool, but also seeing Graham Rahal make that improvement is really cool as well. Joseph Newgarden finished in 4th today, and Alex Palou, who led every session as he was on track this weekend, and he is the heavy favorite, by the way, to win another Indianapolis 500 again, rounded out in the top 5 as well in the number 10, as many know, in the number 10 DHL Chip Ganassi Racing Honda. And he really did just such a great job at not just handling his car, but I felt like every driver, for the most part, it was the start of the race was, and I'm so sorry I'm scrambled. Tomorrow is Mother's Day, and I was very scrambled because we had just lost a relative last year, and we were dealing with a lot this year. We have been dealing with a lot, of course. Been kind of a challenging year so far, but that's beside the point. Hasn't been as much. I think if you want to talk about a challenging year, talk about how Scott Dixon had such a challenging race today. He has not podiumed in several races, and I will say that going into this Indy 500, I don't know if it's just his age or his experience level, but I think at this point it might be time for him to retire ultimately at either the end of this season or next season, because you're really showing, because at one point in the race he wrecked out and his tire was flamed, but he is still a very impressive driver. Just a very impressive driver nonetheless. But there's points you see in experience, and you see a lot of just wear and tear from years and years and years of doing this. And I love to see people like him that continue his racing career after all these years, but you're really seeing that inexperience now. But really, I'm just saying the Sonsio Grand Prix had a lot to look forward to other than that, and I felt like Kristen Lugard and David Malakis, especially fighting for the lead on lap 67, was very, very nice to see. And, of course, it was very intriguing to watch as well. And so there were a lot of drivers that got tangled, including Mick Schumacher and, of course, Santino Ferrucci, who both had bad days today. But for the most part, the race wasn't smooth, I would say. I would say the race was more a lot of mayhem in the beginning. It was a lot of mayhem, a lot of just things to do. Alexander Rossi being out was a real bummer for a lot of fans. And then Pato O'Ward not coming out with a victory was really upsetting to a lot of fans as well. But I will say the race itself really tried to deliver. If I had to give it a grade, it'd be like a B minus because there was just a lot of stuff, a lot of grade on those cars that people were just trying to basically get their feet wet and get used to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Make sure that's not okay. I might need to exit that. Okay, there we go. And so Christian Lugard won this race today. And of course, a lot of drivers were just getting their feet wet as we get started with Indy 500 weekend. There's going to be a lot more inexperience coming out, and you'll see that on pole day and bump day. But when it comes down to the actual race, it's going to be exciting. It's going to be very electric. It's going to be very electric, and it's going to be very, very nice to see drivers that might not have had a chance at this race get another round at a bigger, brighter, better chance of not only winning, but winning a lot in this year's Indianapolis 500-mile race. And we'll have more coverage of that throughout the week. Congratulations to Christian Lugard and his team. It's the first time he broke a long winless streak, and a long winless streak for a team that, or for a race where it's mainly been controlled by Ganassi and controlled by Penske. So that's another curse that was broken today as well. This road course race was dominated by Ganassi and dominated by Penske. And this is the first time in many years that we've had a driver from another team win on this type of circuit. So it's really nice to see that. It's really cool to see that. And for the most part, it's really, this whole race, I would say, was very down to the point, down level, but also very up. And we're just hoping to see great action again during the Indianapolis 500 weekend. As we cannot wait, as next week we'll be distributing more content as the week goes on. We just hope and make sure that everybody's safe. It's a beautiful day outside. It was beautiful at the track. And I will say that this is all ramping up for a great and spectacular Indianapolis 500 week. The next 3 weeks are going to not be like this week. They're not going to be smooth. They're not going to be like this. Carb Day might be their only day to calm down and relax. But other than that, it's game time. And everybody and their grandson cannot wait and are ready to see the Indianapolis 500 on May 24th. Thank you all so much for listening. And just a reminder, on the 11th, we might not be here tomorrow. We might be here tomorrow to later in the day, like around 6 p.m. or 8 p.m., to distribute the Yellow Shirt podcast or upload that. And then we just have, throughout the week, more Indianapolis 500 content. And we hope that we can gain more content in the future as we ramp up for poll day next week, a week from today. So we thank you all so much for listening. I know I'm still just kind of tired today, but I'm not feeling great, which I'm sorry that I sound like this, but I know that going into Mother's Day tomorrow, I'm really excited to celebrate that with my mother. And that's going to be really awesome to know and to see. But we're just getting ready for that and getting ready for the Indy 500 weekend. Thank you all so much for listening. Have a great day, and let's go racing.